Okay, go ahead and call this meeting of the Self-Insurance Board Committee together. There's no business, we'll have the invocation. Lord, we're grateful for this time in which we are able to come together and determine the things that need to be done in this county as far as taking care of the employees, to keep their welfare in control, to be able to give them the things that they need through benefits and the insurance that they need to conduct their lives in a proper fashion. May the wisdom that we have here at this committee be wisdom from above. And Lord, help us to put aside any personal grudges or complaints or anything that we have and concentrate wholly upon what is right. Be with us as we go forward the rest of this week. Help us to be the examples that we should be before other men. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Okay, I'll call for an approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Anybody in the public want to speak? Okay, nobody wants to speak. And we have the approval of the minutes from May 27th.
I motion to approve, but I was not here, so I'll approve them.
Don would have to do that.
Yeah, you can.
I'll make a motion to, I'll second it. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay. I have no report for the financial director. No report, Mr. Chairman. Okay. Report of the consultants, medical weight loss program.
Okay, so following our last meeting and discussion, we pulled some numbers, and based on the numbers from the 2024 wellness program and those who participated in either a physical or a biometric screening event, looks like you guys had 73 employees that would potentially qualify for a medication weight loss program. Now, that's not counting years of service. If you wanted to keep that 5 years of service stipulation like you have on the bariatric program, that would take the number of employees down to roughly 47. Kelly's passing out the requirements for the medication weight loss program. They were much smaller on the presentation last time, so you got them in big print so you can see them this time. But we can, again, design this however makes the most sense for you all, for your employees. This is just an example of what we do at other places. We did talk about the cost of the medications, and I put some numbers together. We can kind of talk through them, and I can send them to you later, but I did this late last night because I was on vacation the past 6 days. So anyway, essentially, cost of oral medications is obviously a lot cheaper than cost of the GLP-1 medications. Also, looking at the board of education population, 73% of their employees who participate in the medication weight loss program are on a GLP-1 and 27% are on oral medication. So I kind of use those same percentages because it's a similar population in the same county, right? Kind of.
So GLP is injectable.
It is, yes. It's like that male will go be those.
Is it a higher number than the oral?
Mm-hmm.
That's not good.
Well, it's so. You weren't here at the last meeting, so I'll kind of explain a little bit about what we talked about the last meeting too. But they obviously go through a program with us where they meet with a health coach or dietitian, lose weight on their own first before they ever see a provider to even qualify for medication. And again, this can be whatever you don't want it to be, but that's kind of the program that we're using right now. They have to log their food, log their exercise, prove that they can lose weight on their own before they start a medication. So that the thought is when they do finish the medication and while they're on it, they're equipped with the tools and they continue to meet monthly with the health coach to make sure they're doing all the things they need to do and they're losing weight. But the thought is once they come off the medication, they're equipped to continue that weight loss or maintain the weight loss. But yes, it is a higher percentage of people on the GLP-1 versus oral medication. And that is dependent upon the patient's history, right? If somebody has a history of cardiac issues, they probably can't take this therapy. If they have a history of some kind of colon issue, they may not be able to take a GLP-1. So it really depends on the patient, what they've tried in the past, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and their medical history as to what medication the provider decides is the most appropriate. We definitely want to track people on the lower cost medications first. That's the plan. But if there's some reason they can't take it, then obviously they wouldn't do that. But it is really expensive, right? The GLP-1 medications are really expensive. And I broke it out both ways, and again, I'll send this to you guys so you have it to review. But if you took all employees and made it open to all employees versus that 5-year service requirement like the bariatric program had, if you did it for all employees and they had a 25% copay, it would cost the government essentially almost $455,000 a year for all employees. And that would be after the patient paid their copay and after rebates are applied. So we do get rebates through our medication vendor that we partner with, but the problem with the rebates is they're paid 9 months in arrears, so they're not instant, they come later. So you're billed monthly for the cost of the medication at the higher rate, which is it's about $1,100 a month for that GLP-1 medication. It's about $25 a month for the oral medication. Obviously a big difference. But if you took it down to the 5 years of service, made it, eligible for only those employees who are 5 years of service, that would cost almost $300,000, $293,000 a year. Now, if you had the employees pay 50%, do a 50% cost share versus 25%, then you're looking at $279,000 a year for all employees, $179,000 a year for those 5 years or more.
Does the schools have the 5-year requirements? They don't.
And right now, it's only open to employees, no spouses or dependents, and they don't have a copay currently.
No copay. So open to all employees?
But,
what do you mean by all employees?
well, who's qualified, right? You have to be a BMI greater than 30%. But there's no 5-year restriction, no time limit restriction. All of anybody who's eligible for the insurance is eligible for this limit. Yeah.
So what you're saying is, when you're saying all, you're saying everybody meets the requirements, and everybody meets the requirements of the 5 years.
There is not a 5-year requirement for them.
But I mean what you're talking about.
For you all, yes, because that's what your bariatric program was.
So when we discussed the possibility of doing a 50%, 50/50, and then the 5-year with the plan, and we discussed, I wasn't here, so I'm just saying.
Yes, last meeting we talked about having some type of cost share, potentially 25% of the medication, potentially 50% of the medication. So I just ran the numbers both ways.
How much is the how much is the injections now per shot? How much are we charged? They charge for that?
For Zepbound, which is the one I would recommend we do, and if the patient can't take Zepbound for some reason, I would just say they don't qualify for the program.
Okay.
Because that's the cheaper of the options we can get right now.
Right.
And it's $1,090 a month, so almost $1,100 a month for the injection.
So the employee would be paying $500. I mean,
My big concern is, several years ago, when the County Commission bailed out the health insurance, they said before they did any increase in benefits, they would do an actuarial on to make sure that we were covering the cost. So my question is, right now, we're not putting any additional premiums. It's going to take years for this to wear out for any claims, if it ever does, at that kind of dollar per year. So my concern is, I think it's not potentially helping the claim, actually hurting that kind of cost.
I will say, we don't use Vital Insights for you all. I do think that's something we need to talk about at some point. Vital Insights is a third-party data analytics company that can track in more detail where your patients are, where your employees are from a cost perspective, how many are high risk, how many have the potential to move into a high risk category, that kind of thing, right? But through the data that we have with them, with other groups similar to you all, people who are in that obese category and above typically cost the plan $12,000 a year more than somebody who is in a normal BMI range, because most often when somebody's in that higher BMI range, they have other comorbidities, high blood pressure, other things that are going on. They're probably working in the pre-diabetes course, if you're diabetic, this doesn't apply to you anyways, right? GLP-1s are approved for diabetes, it's only for people who are above the BMI but don't have diabetes. So anyway, there's other comorbidities that are oftentimes impacted with somebody who is obese. So the thought is, long-term, if you lose weight, you also start reversing some of those other things that cause the plan for it.
You're saying if they have it, it's going to cost the plan $6,000, you would potentially save it $12,000.
Say that again?
You're saying that if we do a 50-50, if they do a 50-50 break, it's going to cost about $5,000 to $6,000 for the plan, 5 or 6 for the employee with a 6%. But based on the analytics that you got on the average plan. Another thing, would they be considered non-preferred, like a smoker, or what, as far as the plans? So that's the question I've got, because right now you've got to enter the program to attempt to lose weight, right? On your wellness right now, BMI is one of them, you have to attempt to lose weight, but not this wellness program. So if they join this wellness program, they're not completed, it looks like to me they may need to be going to
your program does not require somebody to lose weight.
Right, that's what I'm saying, but it requires you.
It requires them to participate in health coaching if
Right.
they're over the BMI, right?
Right.
And they have to participate in 2 sessions. And so that's what people do now.
Right.
And as long as they participate in those 2 sessions, they're compliant as far as your.
Well, what I think Bob's asking, maybe I misunderstand, if these people sign up and we're spending $6,000, they just suddenly decide to quit, we may want our plan set up in such a way that they automatically go to the high-cost plan to recover this cost of the $6,000 plan to support for that work. That's my only point. Maybe that should be something that's looked at. Because if they're going to, I know they're going to have their 6 in, but they're going to have the county 6, maybe somebody decides it's too hard, they're no longer participating, they're not participating.
I think at that point, we might be crossing some lines we don't want to because of ACA and what's allowed to be used as a financial. This isn't about tobacco, so we're back to, I think it's 30%. See, tobacco is about 50% extra you can charge. So with weight loss, I don't think we can do that. Not based on
the 50%.
that. We've got to be really careful when we start saying you have to lose a certain amount or instead of participating. So right now we just say we participate, and that's
You don't have to be successful.
But, right, you don't necessarily have to be successful. I would worry about us putting people on a different plan. Also, we talked about last meeting, and I meant to bring this up, so if they're paying in, say, $500, please, round numbers, if they're paying $500, none of that's going to their out-of-pocket. This is external to the health plan, it's not with the health plan. When we add it into the health plan, things change, we have to start using out-of-pocket max, that's what's happening there. But this is totally external to that. So I don't know that we could, because of the external nature of what this program is being proposed is, I don't know that we could tie it to the ability to put them on the non-preferred plan.
It doesn't pass the sniff test.
Yeah.
So what
That's
you're
my
really
concern there.
looking at is the cost share, the cost share, to get their most involvement. Or they're going to lose their money savings the only way they're going to do it. Because if we do a 10%, they're going to be more likely to quit because they don't have any dollars in it.
Yeah, I think that,
I will say, the people that we have already in the program that aren't paying anything aren't quitting. They want to lose weight. They're doing this because they want to lose weight. And they're seeing weight loss, right? And that's part of the requirement. You can't continue to be on the medicine and not lose weight. So if you aren't changing your behaviors and you're still taking the medicine, you're not going to lose weight. So they don't qualify to stay on it. Like, it wouldn't make sense for you to continue to pay month over month for somebody who's not losing weight.
Is there a duration for the medicine? So they
Not
can take
really.
it indefinitely?
So when we start the program, the provider and the patient agree on what their goal weight loss is, which may not even fully be into a healthy BMI range, or normal BMI range, I should say, because normal BMI is really low for somebody who's been very overweight, right? So they agree on a goal weight. When they hit that goal weight, then they start titrating off, and that's the agreement from the beginning with the patient. So it's not intended to be forever.
So the end goal is to get them off of that as
Absolutely,
well? Okay.
yes, absolutely.
So it's not a long-term, 10-year investment on the county's part?
No, the goal is to get them off as soon as they hit that goal weight, and they have to continue to show weight loss every month to get to that goal.
What's the long one, about 3 years? I think it's the compromise, is that 3 years?
It could be, I would say that's probably realistic, depending on the person.
So,
there's a lot of risk too, because there's a lot of muscle mass weight loss.
You have
And that includes your heart, so you have to be careful, because it can also put you into other high-risk areas of your health.
Yes. So that's part of the reason, again, why they have to meet monthly with the health coach and the provider. And we also have the InBody scale, which we require them to use, which is different than just a regular scale, but it shows muscle mass versus water weight versus fat, so that we can track, are we losing the right weight?
Can I go back to a clarification on what you said about the rebates?
Yes.
What the monies you're talking about, as we discussed, are outside the plan.
Correct.
The Blue Cross, none of that would ever be participating in those costs. But you also mentioned that a portion of those pharmacy costs are like on a 9-month delay or what's called a rebate. And I just want to remind everyone, this applies across anyone who gives a rebate. Purpose for a rebate is cash flow. It has nothing to do, if they can give a rebate, they should be able to charge that lower amount to start with. The reason they charge more is because they want you to give them money that they invest for 90 days.
No, it's up to 9 months.
9 months at some high rate with GM or somebody who needs short-term money, and they get all the profits from that, and then they give you, as a courtesy, they give you your money back. But in your case, that's a lot of dollars floating around in your plan that you're letting somebody else earn money on while you try to manage this program. That's not that you shouldn't do it. You just need to really think about all the ramifications of this.
So we don't get the rebate for 9 months?
Well, even Blue Cross, the rebates are always late. But also, I want to make it really clear, it's not one-to-one that's holding the money. This is the pharmaceutical. Okay, I just want to make sure everyone understands that we're not saying.
We get it. They own it.
Right. Yes, but that is also how it works. Any PBM, CVS, ESI, Well Done, any of them, they are always paying in arrears. That's always a process.
That's a long time.
It is, but that is what is happening now, even with the rebate tax from Blue Cross.
You were considering, taking the actual pharmacy out and bidding and doing it separately, but there was some legislative changes that prevented this plan from doing it because their highest growth cost is
The middle people are making all the money.
That's right.
And our efforts early on, before some people in the legislature decided to act ugly, was to eliminate that and take clients direct to those costs. And we don't need brokers, we don't need agents, PBMs, or the way PBMs are.
We need PBMs. I will say that you hear a lot in the news, PBMs are terrible. Well, they have their element of terribleness, but they are necessary. There is a necessary element because we don't want to be buying drugs from the people who manufacture them. That's a lot. So we need an AS Med who they partner with or some type of CVS, what have you. It's about the contract that's written. So yes, legislation has changed. We can't always do things the exact way I want to do them. There are other options we can look at on RX, but let's stay focused because I know you want it to be efficient in your time. So let's stay focused on actually like the weight loss part of it. My thought regarding this, if you take that with whatever weight it is, if you're going to do weight loss, you need to do it through this type of program. We don't need to just give people meds because they want them.
No.
And you also have an extremely low copay through the health plan. And so I definitely think it should stay disconnected from your health plan, or if it's easier for you to think of Blue Cross, keep it disconnected from that. And the good thing about what one-to-one's doing is that there is that physical health, that health coaching element. They've got some goals. You don't have control over a doctor and their patient, so you don't know what the goals are over here, but they will have that. So if you're going to cover it at all, this is what my recommendation would be, is to do it this way, if you're going to cover it.
So,
I'm sorry.
I had a question. So if, I have no problem with this, but doing it the 50% with the 50%, right now they're where are they now? What are they paying? Just a copay?
The patients to come to the clinic, you mean?
To do the program now, what are they paying now?
There is no program right now.
So it's just come
This will
and,
be brand new.
brand new, okay.
To the county government, but the schools are doing it, so we can kind of look at what they're doing, yeah, just to see.
And they have no copay.
Yes.
Of course. So, just, I mean,
They have nothing.
that's why they needed.
Yeah, they're in the game.
They have skin in the game because they have to continue to lose weight to get on the medicine.
Right.
But
Period.
they've got nothing if they pay us, if they drop out, they've got the dollar out of pocket, and the school board has a lot. That's my point is, if you have money invested, you're more likely to continue.
I don't disagree, and I think each
Yeah,
group
because
needs to do what
taxpayers
makes sense for them. But I will say, again, the long-term goal is to get people to a healthier BMI, which reverses other conditions, which saves your plan money over the long term.
I agree.
And I think that's the way they were looking at it.
That's my one question. You said they would get staff to ship pounds about $12,000 per year for people that are obese to lose the weight. Is the plan that you're gonna line up, have the same BMI as the obese people, and so you're lining up exactly the same?
Correct.
So we should see something on average to do with that.
Right, which is, again, why I think it would be nice for you to have Vital Insights or some other tracking tool. So that's who they partner with. It can be them or a variety of other groups, but they're running that cohort of people. So we send special codes to them every month for people who are participating with us. And they can track that cohort of people over the next 1, 5, 10 years and see how this has improved their health, which is also nice.
The other question I have is, with the the higher rate, cost prohibitive. I always look at cost prohibitive for when I prescribe. So, and, you know, this is taxpayers' money, let's just be honest. And so, when it's cost prohibitive for the person not to be able to afford the injections, is there other ways to support them on that? If we say 50%, you gotta pay 50/50, and they are struggling coming up with the $500 or whatever, is there other options? Are there other ways that they can get that taken care of without cash out money for themselves?
That would be completely up to you all. It sounds like, so it's no, either they pay for it or they don't.
Okay.
So if they're on the Zepbound, they'll pay 25% of the $10.90 a
Well, I
month.
think we're either 25 or 50, whatever you
Yeah, I know,
call it,
that's
but
right.
yes, that's exactly right.
I mean, 50%, that's, to me, that seems a little much.
Well, and then the patents run out too, eventually, so they get cheaper. But,
How long has Zepbound been around? Do you have any idea?
Well, they're all relatively pretty new. in the
Yeah,
market.
all of them are still
There's
pretty
a
new.
hanger.
Yeah,
So
it's
still
a years for
advertised.
oral.
And I will say, like, we can get a couple of other ones, but they're like $1,300
Yeah.
a month, which is why I say I think you should go with them because that's the.
Right.
We'll go over here.
well, I think, you know, in my opinion, if you truly want to participate in a program, I love the fact that you're keeping them in a, you know, a healthy, regulated program with a coach, a practitioner, whichever. And that's important because if not, I'm surprised at the school. I mean, I know a lot of people want to be skinny. I'd love to be thin, and you know, but there's choices, okay? But I think there needs to be some skin in the game for the injections. I'm concerned about the long-term effect of these injections. So I make a motion that we do 50%, and then it was 50% for the balance
Employee and for the.
rate. And they keep the coaching part of, you know, keep the one-on-one. That's my motion.
Is it for all schools or those 5 years or greater?
5 years or greater. Right.
We're gonna sign something for you to continue.
That's correct. You've got that, contract that they signed with us.
So what's the,
We'll have to update this, right, for you all to say that you've been an employee 5 years or greater, and that they understand their copay and their financial portion. So we'll have to change it a little bit for your requirements. But basically, this is them understanding from the get-go, this is a voluntary program. If you don't continue to do all of these things, you're not going to continue to qualify for it.
Okay. So that's my motion, 50% in 5 years. So that's my motion.
Employees only,
Employees only.
employees only, 5 years. When do you want to start it?
well, hang on. We need a second. I'll second it.
And I'll also say something else
we've also seen with the Board of Education, many people that have gone through the 3 months with the health coach, and let's just say their BMI was right at 30 or, you know, a little bit above. They do all of the healthy eating and all of the exercises, and they see the change in themselves, and they're like, I can do this on my own. And we can just, as the health coaches, they just do follow-ups to hold them accountable, because they realize that they do have the willpower.
Yeah, I can't imagine people, I mean, I know people do, but I can't imagine people wanting to take injections for the rest. That's an insulin issue kind of thing, and it's not something people love to do. But in the spirit of keeping it succinct here today and getting it done.
I saw on the news where the American Pediatric Association has now recommended obese children take these things. You've got, and they said that one of the biggest side effects is osteoporosis in children. That's an old lady's disease right there.
Oh, hey there.
Now, old man too. But anyway, that's sad that something like that would happen in a child, that you're robbing the nutrients.
There are
Like
so
that.
many things that if we could get parents on board with children getting healthy and starting right from the time they were little.
And their food.
we could avoid
Their
so
food
much.
changes, yeah. So we have a second, we need a vote.
Did you decide a date?
Oh, hang on. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Nay. That wouldn't discuss that.
Okay, perfect.
I'll recommend you one of them for a 2 year. No, it's rather close in, I think they could probably do it. It was line up with your fiscal year, and you can track it better.
July 1 this year?
Yeah, that way you can track it better.
And are you all going to be responsible for the form and updating it and getting it signed? So that's not on Amy. Okay, want to make sure for that.
I appreciate that.
How come some of your one-to-one stuff like this, where they do forms and stuff, can you provide us a link where we can put on our website for all of them, we'll just link it versus putting it?
They have.
You have been doing
I've
that
just
lately?
gotta get it set up.
Okay, thank you.
And also we talked about maybe just hyperlinking our website to yours, because we keep all of that really updated, so you don't have to worry about updating things.
Basically, the door after this, we just link it to back to your site. Okay. So the one renewal contract, that's the next thing. You mean talk about that one? That's what Mrs. Boyd has to be on here. Meeting, I believe, until December of this year at least. But I think what she wanted was everybody to get it in their packet, have time to look over it, let one-to-one work up what the proposal is, and then let this committee look at the logistics over the next couple of months before it goes to legal, whether there's plenty of time to work on it. I've heard it's concerned is the month before, it's gonna come down here, there's not gonna be a lot of discussion, it's gonna pass through. I think that's the whole intent, because right now, talking to her, the contract is still in force at this point. I believe it's to this December, but there's a little, they were thinking 26, but I believe the contract is written for this December.
Well, it's worded that the term is extended for an additional 4 years.
You know, I guess 3.
But it gives 3. It says January 1st, 2022 through December 1st, 2025.
So there was a typo somewhere, either in the 4 years or the day.
So anyway, I just have it on my calendar this month to start the discussions with you all as well, so great minds think alike.
So I think that was her intent to have, because there's 2 things. First is the management logistical, which is this board, and then it'll need time to get to legal if there's any legal issues and get back to one-on-one if they're agreeable. So that's why we think it probably needs to kick off looking at it on up in July. And it'll let you get it in your hands this month, the way you can start looking at it as board members outside.
I have one question. Do they sign separate contracts in the schools? They do. You have your own contract. Okay.
They
Make sure.
They interlink, but they're separate.
Right. Okay.
They have percentages based on what the school's got.
Yeah.
They have a contract.
So I will add, I did some research too, because there were a lot of questions last month about the contract and the percentages and different things, just in case we wanted to talk about that today. Interestingly enough, the only contract that has a percentage in it is the government's second amendment with 1-to-1, and it says that the split is 86-14 in that second amendment. That's the only place it's called out. However, I pulled the current employees, your current employees who are eligible for the clinic and theirs, based on June 5, of the most recent data I could get from both groups, and based on the numbers, it would technically probably supposed to be an 85-15 split. You guys have increased employees quite a bit since you started. Now, I don't think whether that matters, I don't think it does, right? But anyway, I did run that because that was asked last month.
It's materially the same.
Correct. So we'll come next month with a proposal, correct? We'll come next month with a proposal.
Oh, for the agenda, yes.
Yes.
It's good for chicken. Okay, analysis on the county's insurance bid. We can talk about that. Last month you guys accepted one of the two options. Looking back at it closer, you can't break it into little bitty tiny pieces, but you can separate the excess risk between the two. If you actually took, and Jeremy may want to talk about it, if you did take the option you mentioned last month, but grab the excess portions like on page 81, unless Jeremy here's found something different, I think it would be a better option. He may have found something between them.
Yeah.
He talked to the broker too, so there was some verifications we were still waiting for the broker, but I've been informed last month.
Right, that's, so when I talked to the broker in the initial look over of all the stuff, I asked him about this, because he made this statement about no policies are I can't remember the exact wording, no policies are standalone, but you can move this, which is kind of contradictory. So I was talking to him about this and that, and finally we came to the conclusion on the phone that because the pollution and the deadly weapon were just inserted from option 1 into option 2 because he didn't have those policies for option 2. I just said, oh, so this is a incomplete option, and we just kind of agreed, and I moved forward, and that's why we said your only option is option 1. It turns out it is technically standalone because you can pull the liability out and swap them. So if you do that, you save money, you save your SIR is lower. There are other people pulling out of states too, is what.
Pollution and what?
If you look on page 81 of the agenda, I think make sure I'm not misunderstanding. You're saying, Jeremy, take option 1, except remove the excess risk and pick up option 2's cheaper excess risk, and also pick up, which is part of the excess risk, TRIA.
Right. Do they have this?
It's actually on page 81, my email.
Right, so yeah, if the 412.
I'm correct what I'm telling them. It's right here, the verbiage.
Yeah, the 412761 is option 1's liability premium, but option 2's liability premium is $371,000. Now, you have to add $3,000 for TRIA, the terrorism. That's included in the 412, but that's still nowhere near 412. So, and the savings in your SIR, which is your retention, is $500,000 as opposed to $1 million. So I worded that wrong. It's a SIR of $500,000 instead of an SIR of $1 million.
So what I'm requesting is versus last month, you take Jeremy's recommendation that he just made, and you pull option 1 and switch out the excess risk for option 2 and the TRIA from option 2. Correct. What is excess to Palomar? Which one are you looking at? Well, it says right there, excess to Palomar.
So you would be switching from state's insurance to Palomar, it's the new insurance company.
Okay, it's just the name of the company. Okay, that's what.
And they've picked up several. According to the broker, they have picked up several of the state's clients.
Okay. So what we're looking at, you're going to save several $1,000s and have a lower amount that you have to cover. And that's what I'm requesting the committee to change the motion last month to take option 1 with the change of taking the excess risk and the TRIA from option 2. That's correct. And you didn't see any other problems that are covered by making that change?
I mean, there's no real changes other than that. It's the same.
I'll make a motion that we change these premiums here to the suggestion. I'll second it. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? You want to notify the voter?
I can. How do you want to do that?
Kim notify them. He'll notify the
That,
voter.
or you want me to?
Doesn't matter to me, just whatever y'all decide.
Make sure we move forward.
He's probably going to need something from you pretty quickly. So if you would just want to call him and say, go on option 1 with Palomar instead. Yeah.
I didn't want to assume somebody's moving forward so fast.
Yeah,
You know what happened?
you don't want to send 2 orders down the pipeline, because everybody gets confused at the end.
You or me?
Okay, next, under old business, EMA auto coverage, do we have that list of those?
It should be
Oh,
on the
it's
packet.
in the list of people?
Yes, and that's also included in the packet. We got the people, and then you wanted to know the specifics on the auto coverage.
The only thing I can say is that these coverages, we don't need to make any real changes because we're under a 3-year bid. The deductible and several items are spelled out in 3-year bid, and we're, now what are we, a little over a month out, so we're a little late to be bidding at this point. I wouldn't recommend us making any changes in coverage. It'd be hard to get it locked, tied down for 15.
So all these names of these people on here are people that have vehicles.
No, they wanted to
There's
have
volunteers that could
Oh,
potentially drive the vehicles.
and we went, finance went through the list to see if they could pull who's already on a payroll. So that's the list of the individuals that are marked, what department that they're on the payroll with. So we've got.
Okay.
some-
The others are volunteers.
Yeah, and the others are strictly volunteers that we can find.
Why are there gaps in the line here?
I don't know, I didn't do the spreadsheet.
Just wondered
I just
if
didn't
they
know
were
how-
pulled because they were employees or what. I think either reason the people are not there.
I think as people got added, they just didn't move them up.
Yeah. Just the least line.
This only covers them when they're driving our vehicles.
Yeah. You said there was 34 on here, Kim, this morning.
There's 39 on the list, but 4 of them, he also listed the full-time employees as well, full and part-time employees as well. So there's really 35 volunteers, but 39 individuals that will be driving the vehicle, or eligible to drive the vehicle.
So are they leaving the employees on the cover? Employees should be on the county plan.
The only time
Well, okay, so we have the county employees are on the county plan, and then the county employees are on this plan
Well,
also?
no, these are just individuals that would drive a vehicle.
Right,
And they, if they were in one of their EMA vehicles,
Yeah.
they would be covered under the policy, under the auto
Oh,
policy.
That's the only distinction we're making, is they're already on our payroll, so they're getting the benefits.
The people in red?
The one, no, you see that second column that says EMA or poll worker, that's, when we identify them, that's where they're working.
Okay.
They're
So it's
regular.
the red and the red. Red and the
Those
red.
are
Yeah, the red are the EMA and the rest of them are various. What about that rescue out there, is that?
I don't know what that means, to be honest. This is a spreadsheet that I got from EMA, so I don't particularly know what that means.
Now, a poll worker wouldn't be a regular employee,
No, but they showed up as being on payroll.
right, but they're still gonna be insured over
Yeah.
here because they're
Yeah.
not a regular employee.
Yes.
Now, do we need to vote on this?
On this one's gonna run up in, July.
So we need to vote on this to renew it. I'd say renew it based on the vehicles out.
We're just not going to be changing the deductibles like they gave us options to do. We have to go with the previous $225 or $250 deductible.
So,
Make a motion to approve it.
okay. I'll second it. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. All those opposed? Now, update on, now, this update on risk mitigation plan.
This has been Ms. Boyd's project, so I'm really not sure where we're gonna go on this from here, so it might need to just stay on business.
I'll just leave that there for her. Alright. Okay, and then, new business, tourism location insurance and lease. I can tell you what Ms. Boyd told me, and she may have told Mr. Ship or something. I think she's concerned with what she told me, and she's not here today, and I hate to speak for her. Her understanding is we cover some property in our lease that we're insuring that may be being used by Rogers Well, I know she was concerned about the fact if we have any of the property that the Comer Barn is on, the 17 acres. Well, and I said we need to get a plat for what the tourism board controls and see if any of that Comer Barn is on that plat. So I guess that's where we need to go is
Well,
the
I'm on
plat.
tourism. I'm on the tourism board.
Okay.
We talked about this last meeting, and the contracts were not up to date. Am I right? Did they talk to you about it?
I've got a couple of comments to make on this,
Go ahead, because
if it's all right with you. Go ahead. It's not as simple as the plat, because the lease that, both properties, we've got two leases going on here. One is the county leases the property from Rogers, then we sublease it to tourism, about $100 a year. And during all this back and forth, Mayor Holt had entered into some sort of agreement where the Comer Barn got deeded over.
But we sent that back.
Right. So when we sent that back, we did a deed that conveyed everything back over to Rogers Group. So normally I would tell you that's Rogers Group's property. However, the leases out there still identify 17.4 acres of land, which includes that barn.
Still includes a barn.
Yes, so the question becomes, are the leases dead or not dead? Now, we've got an expired lease between us and tourism. There was nothing that kept that alive, what I call a holdover clause, meaning if neither party terminates, it continues in some way, shape, or form. It does not have one, so technically, they're just tenants at will. Our agreement with Rogers Group is 13 years ending September 30th, 2027, then renewed annually after that. But the problem is this. I don't know if this, you've got a material change, which is the property getting transferred, the Comer Barn specifically. So if the barn gets transferred, is there a material change, and what exactly are our responsibilities for that barn in that area? So if I was being retained to clean this mess up, the first thing I would do is say we need to do new leases all the way across the board and identify those areas.
Because we don't need to be liable for anybody that gets hurt in that Comer Barn. That's the problem.
Correct, and they've rehabbed it, so I don't know what they're turning it into. It looks like it may be a venue of some type when they're done with it, and we don't want to be on the hook for any of that either. So that would be my suggestion, is maybe have the mayor, through my office, enter into some sort of agreement to change and modify this lease, and then we need to execute a new lease between Sumner County and tourism.
I know that at the meeting, they voted to retain Walter Stubbs as their legal counsel,
Who did?
the tourism board.
Okay.
So they,
I know Walter, so we can work together just
right,
fine.
that's, so, because they said that anyway, that's what they did. They retained them as their law, as a retainer for them, so, yeah. That happened.
Okay, and then we get to the insurance aspect of this, and I believe the biggest hiccup was the policy overage, like the umbrella or something between the one we're carrying and the one tourism's carrying, because the leases did identify specific coverage needs. So which one's ours? This is tourism, and what was it missing, the $5 million? So tourism's policy is missing the $5 million umbrella. So I think it was $5 million. It was $5 million and $5 million. So, but we are covering our responsibility because we've got the $5 million umbrella just basically through all of our property. So that's our report as far as it goes to the insurance coverage. They do have $4 million. The tourism has $4 million, it looks like, as an aggregate limit. Is this stuff in here?
Is this $5 million in case the building burns goes down or something.
It's just umbrella, it's for unexpected or unaccounted for issues.
Yeah, okay, because I mean, $5 million, that's a lot of money, I just want to make sure.
But I think all of that this can all be cleaned up with just getting these leases right.
It's on page 100 there. Okay. I'll make a motion that we renegotiate the leases, so that we get 2 clean contracts, or 1 clean contract.
Well, not with the labor
this.
If the county gets out of it, would we rather it be between tourism and Rogers, or do we want to keep this relationship going?
Well, there is a relationship because they bring in the tax revenue for the county with the sales tax and stuff, and it helps the county. I don't know. I mean, I would talk with Mark, the director of tourism, kind of get with him, because this is about to expire. This insurance is going to expire in August. So, and they need to bump up their coverage based on what you're saying. This is $4 million and not $5 million. So
I think the motion would be better suited just to give my department the authority to enter into research and the options available. That'll let me go out there and start talking to these people. I can report back next meeting what I've come up with and make my suggestions. You would vote on a resolution there.
Okay, then I will restate my motion for research on the law director's behalf, and then, if it's deemed that tourism hold the insurance and the lease, so be it. Let the county get out of that.
So your motion is to engage the law department to do
Law
that?
department to do the research.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Okay. I have 2 questions. Is the Comer Barn on a property insurance policy held by tourism? Because it is not on your property policy.
Not our property.
It's not our fault.
I understand. I just want to make sure we're all singing off the same sheet of music here.
Because if it burns to the ground, I mean, I know they're
The
gonna.
county's not responsible for that.
I think that's the question's coming up, because it's still leased and maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking,
There's a lease.
I'm being worst case scenario here, which is if I was on the other side of that barn burn, I could say, look, yeah, the property transfers back and forth, but you still have an identified area that you're leasing, which is 17.4 acres. So that gets to his question. So if it got argued down that road, yes, that could be a point of contention. But practically speaking, they have the property and they own it.
And they're renovating.
Plus, we do have legislation where we turn that barn back to them in a resolution.
Yes.
Right.
So,
Which leads me to my second question. On the agreement, you are on the hook for any and all liabilities. Now,
scary.
that could be, someone could make the argument that that's property. Someone could make the argument that when they call the public out there to drive around in backhoes, that that's also your liability. So, again, when you're doing all this stuff, that needs to be part of the discussion. The maintenance, repair is normal.
I get all that. Okay. What I'm doing is I'm backing us out of this whole thing and you're taking the house.
Right. I just want to make sure you're also not waiving your right to tort cap protections in this agreement too.
Waiving my right to do what?
Like, if they go and run over somebody with a dump bulldozer and they sue, you could get out, things could happen to get out of your tort cap protections. Or does your tort cap protection then extend to the Rogers Group because you are liable?
They're additional insured.
Right, but a private entity can do an act that then has tort cap protections only reserved for public entities.
Like us.
Right, I just read through it and these are the things that popped up in my head.
I'm still confused on using your example, what's the activity that's happening that created?
I may not have given a very good specific example. I'm just saying if it gets to a point where they do something that causes a tort, that then they can then protect themselves for their action under your tort cap protections because of this agreement. I just want to make sure that this part is not in the next agreement. The any and all liability part, it could be seen as you waiving your right to that tort cap protection, which you can do by buying insurance policies for things that.
Okay, I think I see where you're coming from.
Yeah,
that's why if I limit it to the house, it's gonna be a moot point.
Right. That you brought in new information that I didn't have when I wrote all these questions down.
Okay.
So, yeah, I just want to make sure that that's all there. That's understandable. If you get rid of the lease and just make sure there's a clear delineation, who is covering what and where.
Brings up the original question you had, why do you want the county leasing it and subleasing it to tourism? Because tourism is a standalone entity, so if there's a suit, the county's got a lot more assets, they're gonna sue you. Definitely, but if it's rented by
We're always
tourism,
gonna be.
if it gets rented by tourism, it's a standalone legal entity insured, and you're potentially not gonna be involved in this lawsuit. We're not leasing it off, so I mean, it really makes the most sense for you guys to pull you out like tourism leasing it, honestly.
And that's what the part I want to entertain, because if we can step completely out of this, why do we need to be there?
Tourism doesn't answer to the county either.
Here, just a clarification on, because I heard 2, 3 things. I'm trying in my head, trying to place this on a map or whatever. There's a building and there's property, correct?
There's 2 buildings.
Just two buildings. Probably just three.
All right, here's what we've got. We've got an old antique house.
Right.
Tourism's operating out of there. Then we've got the beautiful Comer barn. It's been a source of contention in this county for long before I got here. That barn is what we tried to divest ourselves from, and we did it through the deed by giving it back.
Okay.
So it's changed hands a couple times, but the lease took into account all of the property.
Okay. My question is about egress and so forth. If there are third parties that have to get to this barn,
There's separate entrances and exits.
to that just place, so they would not have to pass through, where county would have liability.
There's no merger or easement.
You can see, I didn't know what was, so that's why I was just.
If you come down Gallatin Road going towards Hendersonville,
Yeah.
it's on your right.
Driveway, you can drive around it, come back.
Little
out.
antebellum looking house.
Yeah, so they couldn't claim the county didn't keep the road up or something, and that caused it. Okay.
Well, I mean, I've seen some crazy suits come through this place, so to answer your question, maybe.
Yeah, nothing's impossible.
For anything.
I
The
understand.
last value I have on that building was 2021 at $2.8 million on the Comer barn. Really? Well, when we got the historical surveys done, that was one of the buildings that the historical guy did a survey on. And because you can't just run historical evaluation reports, that they've been, and I just increased them by percentage until 2021, and then the discussion started of who owns the hot potato of the Comer barn, started going around. So it's probably worth well over $3 million now. So probably 5.
It's really nice, actually.
It was nice in 2017, we went and looked at it. Yeah.
Old property was nice.
There's a big quarry behind it.
We done?
So I guess we got one last thing.
Adjourn, please. Motion to adjourn.
Okay, we're out of here.
Oh, let me turn this off.